it was stressful. It was very, I remember at night, like I would just sit on my bed and I would just cry. Like, how am I going to make ends meet? I just get this random message from James on Facebook. I wanted to discuss something with you, possibly a job opportunity. And right there, I was like, yes, maybe this is my way out. I mean, we worked together before, and I know that you work really hard. I know that you know everything about the the office and all that. So yeah, I'm interested in you. And we're sitting there at that table, we're talking, having a conversation, having a drink, and I'm like, what time did they say they were supposed to be here? And then that's when he's like, yeah, they're not coming. I knew that I couldn't ask you to like meet up with me after work for like dinner or a drink. So I kind of made this story up. Oh my, what did I just get myself into? I can't lose this job. I can't lose this job. Mom's over here like, he's your boss? Are you sure? And you sure there ain't more going on here? So then I finally, that night I told her, I was like, Mom, I think he likes me. And she's like, well, do you like him? I'm like, yeah, I do. He got angry because I kept questioning him about the wife, and he got really mad. And he's like, obviously you don't believe what I'm saying. Anyone can say that they're getting divorced, but my words should matter. I promise on everything. It will be different. I will be there. I promise. Then you have to show me, because I told you from the get-go, this is not adding up. This doesn't make sense. This was supposed to be the start of me and you and everything like that. And I said, and I feel like this is nothing but a big lie. And he like explodes. Well, she overhears it. And she goes, who are you talking to? And I was like, tell her who you're talking to. One night, something was so off. So I'm good. I can look at something. If I can see your movements, I can pretty much get it. So I'm like, oh, there's the watch. So I picked the watch up and I put that little password in. Bam, got it. It was him and his ex-wife. And the message said, we'll see you Sunday. We're going to have movie night. She's as good as gone. Me. I lose my shit. And she goes, Amanda, have you ever heard the term gaslighting? No. She's like, you don't know what gaslighting means. And she was like, there's a movie about it, and I really want you to watch this movie. Like, it creeped me out. It really, really did, because at first I was so confused. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? But then at the end of the movie, like, he made her crazy. I was like, that's me. I'm the nut.
Welcome to Ex-Wives Undercover.
Liars, cheaters, and love cons.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Athena.
First, we told our story, and now we're sharing all of your craziest and most heart-wrenching stories of love gone wrong. Sometimes we laugh.
And sometimes we cry.
But more importantly,
we stand together. All right, girl. You ready to do this?
Let's do it.
The views, information, or opinions expressed on our show by our guests are solely the views of those individuals involved, and by no means represent absolute facts. Opinions expressed by the host and guests may change at any time. Our podcast and YouTube show may at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to suicide, abuse, violence. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Back to Amanda's story, Bait and Switch. Please note, for this series, I'm actually going to be reading her exact letter that she submitted to Ex-Wives Undercover. I stood outside my office pondering for hours what would happen if I walked in and quit. I was a divorced single mother needing to get out of my current roommate situation and into my own apartment. Not making ends meet, my boss, coworkers, and everyone else had no idea what I've been through.
It was very stressful because I did not make a ton of money. And my son, he was in elementary school. So of course, he needed money for lunch and clothes and field trips. And I also had to pay my bills. I had a car payment and insurance, cell phone, and I really didn't want to live in that house anymore. So, I mean, I was thinking of a way to, like, get that little income to the side so I can save up, maybe find me a little, apartment, for me and my son. It was stressful. It was very, I remember at night, like, I would just sit on my bed and I would just cry. Like, how am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to, I would look at my bank account every day. Like, okay, I have this much in my name. Okay, I can spend this, and this, and keep this aside. Even like at lunch. I mean, I would pack my lunch, and even leftovers. Like, I'd cook dinner and make sure that there was enough leftovers to go a couple days, because I didn't make a whole lot of money. That period of time, it was awful. It was so bad. And like, even with my son, like, we would go to the store and he'd want like a special toy or a candy bar or something. I'm like, baby, I can't. I'm sorry. And it's like, it eats me up, because I'm like, I want to be able to be like, yes, get everything that you want, but I can't. And that was a struggle. That was hard. Very, very hard.
As I looked around for my next customer, I got an instant message from a past coworker of mine named James. I haven't heard from him in years, and all the message said was, "Call when you can." And I thought, well, maybe this is a job opportunity. Another message crossed my screen. It said, "Amanda, when you get a minute, I really need to discuss something with you."
I knew him from work is mainly it. I mean, we never like hung out outside of work or anything in that nature. It was all in our work.
Right. But were you secretly attracted to him at all? Or were your mind just wasn't even going there? It was just, he's a coworker and the line is drawn. So there was never any flirtation.
He's a nice guy and all, but no, not attracted to him. And I was also, married with my ex. So at the time we were great. I was, in a great marriage and everything like that. So that didn't even take place. It was really weird, because I just get this random message from James on Facebook. I don't even have his number. Like, I don't have his, I'm like, I can't call you. I don't have your phone number, first off. But I was like, what's up? Is everything okay? No, I wanted to discuss something with you, possibly a job opportunity. And right there, I was like, yes, maybe this is my way out. So I called him, and at first I was like, I don't know, this is a good idea, because I'm that person, like, I have to like mentally break things down in my head. Okay, is this going to be a good idea? Am I going to waste my time? Like, I need to know everything before I just make that jump. And when I called him, he's like, I just had one of the girls back in the office just walk out. I really, really need a manager, like, yesterday. I was like, so, I mean, and what, you want me to be that person? Like, I don't, he's like, well, yeah, I mean, we worked together before, and I know that, that you work really hard. I know that everything about the back, the office and all that. So yeah, I'm interested in you. Let's meet up. And I'm like, okay, do you want me to come to the dealership? Like, what do you mean meet up? And he's like, no, I don't really think I want you to come here right now, just because of everything that's going on. And I don't want people talking, because there was a lot of sales people around, and that's a big thing in the car business. Everyone likes to gossip. So he's like, can we possibly meet up at like a local coffee shop or something? I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And so I met up with him, and that was the first time I think I saw him in person in about 5 years.
He's offering me a job. I'm confused and happy all at the same time. But I couldn't help but think, why, when he hasn't spoken to me in years, would he call offering me a job? We met up at a local coffee shop. He still looked exactly the same. A pressed suit, gelled hair, smells of cologne, with his same friendly smile he always had. James was the type of person who was very into his family, which I liked because it meant he cared for other people and their families. Or so I thought. As I made my way to him, We proceeded to order coffee and sit down at a table. He told me his current business manager wasn't doing very well, and he wanted to make some changes. I'm interested for sure. Maybe I can finally get out of my current situation where I'm at and make enough money to save up for my own apartment.
At first, it was about the meeting, asking me like, are you still doing the same thing? Like, what, how are your numbers? This and that and this. And all of a sudden it was like, so I heard you're going through a divorce. I mean, I didn't put it on Facebook or anything like that. So I'm like, he's like, well, I kind of heard from another person that we used to work with that you're going through a divorce. And I'm like, I am. And he's like, man, I hate to hear that. I thought you and Casey were really good for each other and this and that and this. And I'm like, yeah. So I kind of felt awkward there because I'm like, why are we discussing my divorce? I thought this was an interview. So I kind of like just try to end the conversation, and I'm like, well, so tell me more about, what's going on, like the pay, like what do you, things in that nature. Let's go back to the interview. And we ended it in a good note. And he's like, I'll reach out to you. I'll call you and then we'll discuss it further from there. And I'm like, okay. So I go back to work and it wasn't like 30 minutes later and he's like sending me text messages. So I'm like reading the text messages and he's like, I need you here. I need you to work here. Like I'm in a bad spot, blah, 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 blah. And I felt kind of awkward then, but at the same time, I'm like, well, maybe he really is in a bad spot and can't find anybody, I don't know. So I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do. And well, that day, my manager started letting people go left and right. And I was scared. Girl, I was terrified. I'm like, I am next. I know I am. Like he was cleaning house and I don't know why. So I'm like, okay, fine. I was like, when can I start? And he's like, you can start Monday. So I basically like just said I'm out and I packed my stuff up and I left. And then on Monday I went and met with him and he's like, here's your drug test forms, go take your drug test. And can you start early tomorrow morning? And I'm like, sure. Yeah, I'm there. But that's how that all happened. And it was like snap of a finger so quick. And I think that's the fastest I've ever had a job before in my life.
And probably ever again.
Ever again. Right. I'm like,
right?
This doesn't happen.
Yeah, but it's like you were in a spot where you needed a job. They were making cuts. Mm-hmm. This sounded like a really good opportunity with someone that you trusted because you had worked with him before. When you were talking in the coffee shop, he was asking about your divorce, but was he, I don't know, you know that woman sense, like, did you get the vibe he was kind of flirting or, I don't know, maybe tiptoeing across the friendship line maybe?
Honestly, I got the vibe like he's trying to be nosy and maybe go run around because like at that time, I just looked at him as like James from this dealership, like that I would say, hey, how are you? How's the fam? Like that's how I looked at him. So I'm like, this dude's being so nosy. He's going to go back and tell everybody my business. You know what I mean? So actually, no, I really did not get that vibe from him. And that's what's so crazy about this whole thing. It's like, I didn't.
For the first few weeks, everything went smoothly. I'm doing the best job I can, and James seems to be happy with my work. But one evening, I was working late. My coworker had already went home, and I noticed James was still there, which sometimes he would stay late, but sometimes he left early. He came into my office and sat in front of me. I could tell something was wrong, and I was scared. Did it have something to do with my work?
Well, so the first couple of days, like he was, I was training and getting comfortable in my office and everything. And like he would walk in and sit down and we would talk for like 10, 15 minutes maybe. And it'd be, okay, well, have a good night. And then that end of the week, that's when he came in and he said, me and Laura are getting divorced. What? It just caught me completely off guard. And so we sat down and we were well, he sat down in front of my desk and I was like, well, what? Why? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I thought you guys were happy, you got your baby, little girl, and he's like, well, that's the problem. Like, it's no time for James, all about baby. And I'm like, yeah, that's normal. That's That's normal, you know? And he's like, but still, you still have to have your husband and wife time. Okay. Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, you do. You do. And he's like, and she's like a prude and she doesn't want to come to any of the Christmas parties that we have. She just, it's all about her family. She doesn't think about my family. And I'm like, oh, I did not know that she was like that. And he's like, yeah, like she doesn't like to go over to my parents' house with the baby because it just takes up too much of her day and time and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, so we've been arguing a lot. I'm like, well, I mean, that stinks. I'm sorry. And he's like, yeah. He's like, he's like, but I know that you're going through it too. So like, it's good to have someone to talk to. And right there, I was like, bing. Okay. Like, so now I'm like in this position. This is my boss. He's my boss. And I remember like I got in my car that night to drive home and he's texting me. She said this. She said like almost like a kid, like a little kid, like, or like she said this. Well, no, she said, and I'm like, oh my. So I'm like, I called him on the phone. I was like, look, I can't text and drive. Like, and he's like, you're not going to believe this. She did this. And I was like, well, calm down, like, and I was talking to him, like, and we talked for like 2 hours that night. And when I got off the phone, I was just like, I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I'm trying to be a good person and be here for this person, because I know that he feels like he doesn't have somebody. And I think that's where I felt bad for him because he's like, I don't really have like someone to talk to. I don't want to talk to people at my work about it. Like I feel like me and you can relate on so many levels because, you're going through it too. And it was like every night on my way home, he would call me on the phone. We would talk. And I remember like one night I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this.
Weeks rolled on, and James came in my office again and asked if I would accompany him to a business dinner with one of our clients. I'm thrilled and excited. I mean, I'm always down for meeting new people, especially when it comes to business. So I agreed. But when I arrived to the dinner, it was literally just him. I'm taken aback a little and ask where the others were. He said, oh, they're probably running late. Let's order some drinks and wait for them. And as we were waiting, James is asking a million questions about my life, like what happened with my ex-husband and I, if I was dating anyone, if I wanted to date anyone. This all felt really uncomfortable talking about that with my boss, but I knew that we knew each other for a while, so I just answered his questions and we talked. He said he had been lonely and that his wife didn't talk to him and that he was ready to move out and start over.
And we're sitting there at that table, and we're talking, having a conversation, having a drink, and I'm like, what time did they say they were supposed to be here? And then that's when he's like, yeah, they're not coming. I said, huh? He's like, I knew that I couldn't ask you to like meet up with me after work for like dinner or a drink, so I kind of made this story up. And I just sat there and I was like, I felt like so stupid. And I was like, I gotta go. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh my, what did I just get myself into? I can't lose this job. I can't lose this job. This is paying my bills. And I was actually making way more than I was at the other place. So I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, this is my boss. He could be like, hey, don't come back into work.
Was there any HR or was it a small enough place where you couldn't report him? Like he is HR, essentially, if that makes sense.
He
like,
was
you know what
basically
I mean? Like,
HR. It was small.
So it's absolutely a rock and a hard place. Do you think he mistook your just being nice and listening to him bitch every night after work while you drove home as maybe you were interested in a weird way?
Yeah.
James walked me out, and as he walked me to my car, he reached for my hand and he pulled me into him and hugged me. It completely caught me off guard. I now felt like I'm in a very bad situation. I think my boss is crushing on me. I kind of let that happen because I didn't know what to do or at that time how to feel. We said goodbye and I got in my car and I just sat there literally looking off into space like, what the hell just happened?
Couple thoughts. Let's address the dinner. Once you got made aware that this was a date and not a business meeting, what did you say to him? How did you leave things at that point? Did you just
I
stay
really
and
didn't. I've just told him, I was like, being honest with me would have been very helpful. I mean, I said, I like food and I like drinks. You don't know if you would have just asked me on a casual, like friendly, I mean, I've met you at Starbucks. You know what I mean? So if this wasn't a date and we were just going as friends, I wouldn't have been opposed to it. I would have met you there. I'm not going to ride with you in a car. This is not a date, but this is a friend. But you like lying? Don't lie. Don't lie. Don't do that. Because that was like, okay.
And what was his response? Was
He was like, well, I know that you're very guarded right now. And, even with my situation, I could tell like you have, you're questioning. Like I did. I was like, I don't like one night on the phone. I'm like, I know we're sitting here talking about this, but I don't really feel comfortable. He's like, I promise you, we're getting a divorce. I'm not saying that you're not, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel comfortable like being on the phone with you for a few hours. Like, okay, every now and again we can chit chat. And so then he's like, well, what if we made it about work? I'm like, what? Like, and that right there, I'm like, why do you want to talk to me so bad? And I don't know, like, and he would put in like, so what do you think I should do about this? Like, if we're going to sell the house, how do you think? I don't know, buddy. I don't know your financial situation. You need to ask your attorney. That's what they're there for. So
did you make it clear that you were not interested in dating at that dinner and that this was platonic only, or was there a little crack open to like once you're divorced that there could be, or were you just like, I don't even know what to think because now I'm like, this is business and pleasure.
Right.
They shouldn't be commingling, Well,
I told him too, I was like, I'm not official. I mean, we're there. Like that month or the next month we were signing papers. Like I'm there, but I'm not there yet. So like when I'm there and you're there, possibilities can happen. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying anything right now. I'm just saying we're not to that point yet. You know what I mean? And he's like, so you're saying like we can be friends? Friends. Absolutely. I will be your friend. I am your friend. I will be your friend. I've been your friend.
As the weeks go on, James is literally in my office every day. I mean, every day. He came in one day and said, hey, what are your plans tonight? Want to grab dinner?
So my mom came up for the divorce hearing, which was that next month after all that happened. And James was like, what are y'all doing tonight? And I'm like, I don't know. I was thinking about taking my mom out to dinner somewhere, and he's like, okay, how about this? Paul's at 6:00. We'll go. And that's like a very upscale. I'm talking about like you don't like they valet park you when you pull in. And that's like I think that's the nicest place in Birmingham that you could probably possibly eat. And I'm like, what? Why? And he's like, because I mean, do something nice for your mom, and I'd like to meet her. And he has that demeanor where if he says something, you're gonna be like, okay. Like even like the people at work, if he would have been like, do this, no, okay, yes sir. Like he has that demeanor about him. And so I'm like, okay. So like we meet him, he walks in, he charms my mom. She's like, oh, he's a smoother, like anything she wants on the menu, keep bringing those drinks, I mean, schmoozer. And mom's over here like, he's your boss? Are you sure? And you sure there ain't more going on here? So then I finally, that night I told her, I was like, Mom, I think he likes me. And She's like, well, do you like him? I'm like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I do like him. But I just don't feel like it's the right time.
I don't know how to feel. Literally don't know how to put into words how I was feeling. And after you go through a divorce, you feel at your lowest. Ugly, lonely, sad. So hearing James say how he felt about me made me feel good. But again, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, is this really true? And is his wife really out of the picture? So I did some digging and I started looking on his Facebook account and Instagram. He legit had nothing on Facebook about being married or even a picture of him and his wife. I think there might have been 2 pictures and they were from years ago. As weeks went by, I felt like our relationship got closer and closer. I had to ask the question though. I need to know what was up with this home situation. You make enough money to get your own place, so why don't you just move out? We met up for dinner that evening. I sat in silence, and he could tell something was wrong. So I asked him, why do you stay at that house when you make enough money to get your own place? I could tell he was pondering over that question. And he said, well, my daughter is there, and if I can spend time with her and sleep in separate bedrooms in peace, I'll just stay there. That evening, I had a huge fight with my roommate. It was bad. I mean, he literally took my door off the hinges. Him and his friends were doing some things I did not agree with, and I told him how I felt. He said, this is my house, and I do what I want. The next day at work, James could tell something was wrong, and he asked me to come in his office. I told him what happened, and he said, get in your car, drive down to the nearest apartment complex, and fill out an application, and I'll pay for the deposit and first month's rent. I'm thinking, no, I can't let him do that because now I owe him.
I'm going to front you first month's rent and your deposit. And I just like started just bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, I can't pay you back right now. I can't. I'm not in a situation like I have so much on me, plus my divorce, paying for that. I mean, I can't promise you. He's like, I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about your safety. And that's when the attraction came, because I'm like, this dude cares about me as a person. Like, he was like, whatever I need to do to help you right now, I will, because you've been here for me. I'm like, I talked to you on the phone. Like this is kind of big. You know, like, I'm like, I don't, and I'm like, I don't know if I can accept this. Like, I don't know if I can do that. And he's like, I want to help you. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I went down and I got an apartment that day. And I was so like, it was like a breath of fresh air getting in there. Well, no, I know he paid for it. I know he paid for it and all that. But I didn't know, like, when he said he was going to pay for it, he has open range to my apartment.
Does he feel like you're an item now? Like, okay, this was, was there any moves on his part? Because now you kind of are starting to like him because he did such a kind thing for you, and you kind of started catching feelings, I think.
So then, of course, with my ex-husband and I, a lot of that furniture that we had in our home, his family provided. So I didn't find it fair to like, I took what my belongings and like what furniture I had, which was like a few things. I had a bed. I had like a couple like, lamps, tables, things in that nature, but not like couches, not like furniture like that. So I didn't find that fair to take. So when I moved in with the roommate, he already had all that. So he's like, well, don't stress about that. There's couches, there's, coffee tables, dining room table. Don't worry about that. So I didn't think I had to worry about that at that time. So I get in my apartment. I'm like, I have a bed, a couple lamps, and a nightstand. So I'm like, okay, and a big TV in my living room. That's about it. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to put aside some money. So when I moved in and he came to my apartment that night, he's like, where's your furniture? Don't have furniture. What do you mean? I'm like, well, and I explained the situation, that furniture was my ex. I didn't feel right taking it. That's his family's. I'm not going to take that from them. And he's like, we got to get you furniture. Yeah, we're going to have to get you furniture. Huh? I said, well, I can get furniture. I just, let me save up some money. Let me work for a little bit and I'll get furniture. I know how to purchase furniture. No. We're going to get you furniture. Literally the next day, so he tells me there's a truck pulling up at my apartment. He bought 2 couches, an entertainment center from the television. He bought me a dining room, like a little dining room, little nook table with chairs, washer and dryer, all this stuff. And I'm like, no. And I'm like looking at the guys. I'm like, no, please, no. I'm like, oh my goodness. And in the back of my mind, that's my boss. This is my boss. What am I going to do? And I'm like, just like, it was almost like he was marking his territory. You get what I'm saying? Without like, here, I'm moving all this in. I'm paying for it. I have to come over now. She can't tell me no.
Well, it's a control move. Huge control move. He knew what he was doing and he was putting you in a really bad spot. Did you, I can only imagine, did you feel like, I think I'm in over my head?
Yes.
I don't really know what to do. And other than just say, okay, okay. And just, I don't know. I get the impression that you were just kind of like, I don't even, oh boy, I don't know what to do or say, or I'm scared of doing the wrong thing.
I'm like, thank you. He's like, well, if you need something else, go and pick it out. And like, he would put like money in my purse. I would go in my purse. There'd be like $300 in my purse. Just there. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, and I get this pit, like even talking about it, I get like this pit in my stomach. Cause it's like this pit and it's like, stop doing that. Like, and I almost felt like, here, I'm marking my territory because I just spent this much money on her, bought her an apartment, got her all this furniture. I'm putting money in her purse. I didn't ask for it. And I'm like, at one point I went into his office and I put the money back on his desk and he came in there and he's like, I'm trying to help you out. And this is what you do. I don't want your money. Like, and right there I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like, here, I'll take it. Like it was so, and I'm like, why am I apologizing? But it was awkward. So
it sounds
awkward.
like he was intimidating to you because it doesn't, from my perspective, it doesn't sound like you were comfortable pushing back and even saying this is not okay. Like, I feel like you were probably scared almost. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like you're intimidated in some kind of way where you didn't feel assertive enough because you felt like I need this job and I need to appease him. And even though I know this is not right, I don't really have the courage to stop it.
At first, yeah, absolutely. I was so scared if I just said thank you and smiled that he wouldn't fire me. But if I was so scared I was going to lose my job. And at that time, I didn't have family there. I didn't have family in Alabama. I had family in Tennessee and my mom in Florida. And that was it. And it's like, and then in my head, I'm thinking, I can't leave my son, like I can't just pack up and just move, like me and my husband worked out a custody thing, or my ex-husband worked out a custody thing in the state of Alabama. I can't just pick up and just move and he'll fight me. Like my ex-husband will. I mean, that's his son. And rightfully so, he has a right to. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? And I just didn't know what to do. I did not know what to do.
All of this was too much. I could tell James was getting angry with me for not accepting his help. He said, "Why can't you see that I care about you and I want to provide for you?" I responded with, "But you still live at home with your wife." And he said, "Ex-wife, and I told you my situation." He explained that his wife didn't communicate with him at all. I told him that I appreciated everything, but I needed to figure this all out on my own. He got angry and he stormed out of my apartment. It was 30 minutes later, and I heard a knock at the door. I answered, and there he was again, with food this time. He said, "Let's start over and let's just discuss things." He explained to me that he was planning on moving out and that he just needed to get his ducks in a row.
He was full, like, trying to start a relationship. At one point, he even said, well, when things, we're in the beginning stages of filing. So I guess, like, this is, I can come and pretty much live with me. And I think that's what he was trying to do. I think he was trying to set up a home at my apartment for when they divorced, he had somewhere to go. He got angry because I kept questioning him about the wife, and he got really mad. And he's like, "Obviously you don't believe what I'm saying. I've already done all this for you here. Like you see, I'm like, I've set you up an apartment. I've done this. I've done that." And he's like, "So, and you're not believing a word I'm saying." I'm like, "Well, you can tell me, anyone can say that they're getting divorced. You know what I mean? Like, anyone can sit there and say that. But until I see proof, what, he's like, but my word should matter. My word should matter." Okay. Yeah, that I understand that you think that, but in the back of my mind, you're leaving at night. How do I know you're not going up and cuddling up to your wife and everything's cool, calm, and collective there, and then you're just coming over here? Like, you're saying this, but it's not really, you're not proving me anything. And that's when he's like, "Well, obviously you don't trust my word." And he, like, stormed out. And that was the cycle with us. Like, because every night, that's what I would do. Like, what's going on with your situation? I need to know what's going on with your situation. I need to know this, I need to know that this is legit happening. Because how do I know that your wife isn't waiting at home for you? And you're out over here. That's wrong. That's so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Well, my word should matter. You should trust me. You should trust what I say."
After dinner, James made a move on me. I literally sat there afterwards just in silence again. He left, and I just cried. On the next episode of Ex-Wives Undercover.
When I got the phone and I looked at my friend, I was like, "He's lying." And she's like, "What are you going to do? Because don't you feel like kind of obligated now? Because now you have this?" And I'm like, "I mean, I'll pay him back whatever I need to do, but I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like, this is too much. Were you with any guys?" And I'm like, "Well, if I am, what does it matter? You're married, right?" And he's like, "Well, maybe you shouldn't go into work today." And I immediately lost it. I lost my shit because I knew, I knew it. I was like, "See, I knew he was going to do this. I knew it. I knew it." And, like, I am crying, literally crying on the side of the road in my car. I'm like, "I just lost my job." And he's like, I just fell in love with you. Okay. And now you do this to me and you're hurting me. And I'm like, because I wasn't around, because your beck and call, because I went out with my friends, because I did what I wanted to do for once, And he's like, I promise on everything. It will be different. I will be there. I promise." I'm like, "First of all, you can't propose to me because you are not divorced. You cannot be married and engaged to someone." No. He's like, "Well, I can get you a ring as a gift." And I'm like, "I mean, whatever floats your boat, dude. Like, sure." So he did. But every night I had to make sure I took a picture of my ring on my finger if he was not around.
It's ownership. He wants people to know that he owns you. She's with me.
And once again, if you like what you're hearing, please leave us a 5-star review and make sure to join our private Facebook group for even more juicy info. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And of course, you can always visit our site at www.xwivesundercover.com.